Hi, in this video we're going to talk about client management. When you're starting out with Voiceover, one of the most overwhelming things can be how to manage the information of the people that you're actually reaching out to. And what I started with was an Excel spreadsheet, and then I gradually gravitated to a CRM, which is a customer relationship manager. And I tried out various different ones. And I ended up going back to one of the first ones that I tried, called Nimble. Now, I'm not sponsored by Nimble, and I think it certainly has some flaws. It's quite overcomplicated when you first kind of approach it to look at, but I've now got a workflow that really works for me. So I thought it might be useful, because a lot of people ask me about this, to start by going over how I started using Excel spreadsheets, Google Sheets, to manage my leads, my prospects, and my clients, first of all, and what that workflow was, and then how I shifted that to using Nimble, but any other CRM uses the same principles that I do, which is to do with lead types, your tagging systems, and then basically creating segments from those to control what you're sending to who when you are mass contacting people. And just to emphasize, obviously for your initial email contacts with anybody, it's all personalized emails. The significance of the CRM really comes in the follow-up stages when you don't necessarily have anything new to respond to, but you still want to keep top of mind with both prospects and with leads, in which case having the capacity to be able to share content, stuff that is of use to them, most importantly, at scale. That's when I think a CRM can be really useful. And again, just to say very clearly, you can operate a fully functioning Voiceover business with just Google Sheets. There was just a tipping point about 2 years in for me, where it was really useful to have the CRM functionality.
Okay, so in this video, I'm going to show the difference between the Nimble CRM, which I use, and other CRMs are available, and what I started out using when I first started direct marketing for Voiceover, which was good old Excel. So this is going to be using some hypothetical examples that aren't actually real, because obviously I don't want to compromise people's details, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through what my process was and then how I've changed that when using a CRM. So the pluses and minuses of both systems to a degree. So first of all, with Excel, obviously it's free. I just use Google Sheets essentially in order to be able to do this. So it means that I can flip between different devices. And what I first used to do is I used to separate these tabs at the bottom, and they would relate to the genre or area of Voiceover that I was going to be researching for leads on a given week. So VP stood for video production, then the area in which I was searching for that, so this would be London. Then I would specify the week of the year, because for me, I always do my email marketing. I send out all of my emails on a set day every week, rather than throughout the week sending loads of different emails. So I found it easiest to divide it by week. And then 2022, because we were dealing with a hypothetical example. So yes, this is in the future. So we've got VP London, week 7, 2022. And then we've got EL for e-learning, which is different. And the reason that I would separate these two into different things, I've got one, again, completely made up company there, is because in terms of your follow-ups, as well as your original emails, which you'll be personalizing for every separate lead anyway, but what you would be following up with for an e-learning provider would definitely be subtly different to a video production company. So I had for video production companies, creative agencies, e-learning, etc., as many or as few as you want to use. And then the other significant things here are that I have prospects, which are people who have responded and said, yes, we'd like to keep your details on file. clients, which are people who have actually booked me for jobs. And again, you can see I've got the corresponding VP at the bottom there as well. And then dead leads, which is essentially people who have responded and said, can you please not contact us anymore, which is absolutely fine. And what you do is you make sure that you didn't by calling it a dead lead or an other lead, which is what I do now. But anyway, so just to give you an idea of how this would work, I would go onto someone's webpage or their LinkedIn profile and the pertinent information, take down all of the pertinent information that you want. So I would color code this top bit here and make sure that it was all in a specific order even. Then I would have the company name, I would have their website, which would kind of like link in. Then I would have their first name and their surname, and I would have those as separate tabs, really because it's so useful to do this if you do ever upgrade to a CRM. And I'll go into that more because it separates what field you use to address someone with. Then the role that they have, creative director, head of production, you'll know through research who is the person that you should be targeting, their direct email, and then if you use LinkedIn or you're finding their details from LinkedIn, I always make a note of their LinkedIn page, any social media that you use. So just as an example, I'm using Instagram, but you could use Twitter, Facebook, whatever. And then here we've got basically essentially a list of when I contacted them. And the important thing to really kind of take from this is the fact that when let's say I write first contact is on the 21st of February 2022, very significant. But then at the same time as I send that first email, or at least draft it and save it in my email draft folder, I actually already have plotted out all of my follow-ups, because I do a first email and then I'm going to follow up directly with that person another 4 times. So a second contact, a third contact, a fourth contact, and a fifth contact. And you'll see here that so on the 21st of February 2022 is when I would contact someone. For me personally, I then contact them as a follow-up the week after. And then after that, the third, fourth, and fifth contacts are a month after that. So 1 week, 28th of February, then we go 28th of March, 28th of April, and 28th of May. And what I'd actually do with this as well, in order to properly log it, is that I would go into my Google Calendar. Other calendar providers are available, and I'd actually write it down. So if we've done our first contact is going to be on the 22nd of February, and let me just double check. 21st of February, and then the next follow-up is going to be on the 28th. Then I would actually put, going back to, let's see, VP London Week 7 2022, I'd be VP London Week 7 2022, and then I go follow up 1. So and that would be in my calendar. And then I would literally go a month after that. So we say the 28th of March. And again, it doesn't matter what point in the day necessarily I actually put this, but I'd paste it again. So VP London Week 7 2022 follow up 2. And I'd save it there. It's just so that when I look on my daily calendar, there's a marker there telling me to follow up. And then I would skip to the 28th of April, I think it would be the next one. So again there, and again, I would just insert the details there and say follow up 3. And then for, 28th is actually a Saturday, so I'd probably leave it until the following Monday or Tuesday. So let's say May the 31st. And that would be follow-up number 4. Save. So I've already actually got in my Google Calendar all of those set dates all ready to go. And then in terms of these colors here, again, I'm not, we're hypothetically dealing with February next year. So how I would use it is that yellow is when I know that I've sent that. And I would say that green is pending. So I know that the way I've marked this up is that I've sent that one, I've sent that one, I've sent that one, but I haven't sent my fourth contact yet. So as soon as I did, I would then go through, see it, double check any of the greens, not delete it like that, and I would be able to change the color by changing the fill color in the background there, as it was appropriate. Now, that's generally how I would start out in terms of mailing people. I touch on my Skillshare course about, what you say in emails and all of that kind of stuff. This isn't what this video is about. This is about just kind of how I kind of manage the technical side of things. It's very boring, I understand, but might be practically useful. So if someone responded and said, "Hi, Chris, I actually do want you to, I would be interested in working with you," then what I would actually do is I would copy their information there, and I would move them over to the prospects instead, and I would literally put them in my prospect sheet instead. So it literally copy and pastes everything, including actually last contacted as well. So I would put, if it was their fourth contact, last time I contacted them was the 28th of March 2022. So I'd copy that as well, and I'd put that there. So they're now a prospect. I know that they're interested in working with me, and I know the last time that I contacted them as well. So all of that information is in one place. And then what I would do is, because they're no longer a lead, because they're a prospect instead, they have said that they're interested with me, is that I would delete that row. And that means that they've fallen off there, but I've got all of their information here, and I know that they're interested in working with me. The same thing would happen if they contacted me and booked me for a job. I would copy and paste that information, and I would put it in exactly the same place. And maybe I would want to add like a notes section or something, depending on, what we worked on, whether or not there's an invoice, have I invoiced them, all of this kind of thing. So I would have like a note section and then possibly an invoice section as well. But this is purely for demonstration purposes. And then similarly for dead, again, I would mark it in a different kind of like color, but I would be able to copy and paste all of their information. So I knew that they weren't interested in working with me. And it's important to log that information too. Because you don't want to accidentally reach out to them again. Maybe you want to reach out to someone different in the same company who may be more responsive, but you don't want to reach out to that one person who said no. Right, okay, so that is how you would deal with an Excel version, that essentially, so let me know if you have any questions about that. But then when we get on to Nimble, and yes, there's lots of kind of like bells and whistles here, which can seem a little overwhelming to begin with. I'm just going to tell you how I work, for how I let Nimble work for me. And to do that, I'm just going to guide it through as if someone has messaged me on this, and it's an automatic message. So thank you very much, LinkedIn. But I'm going to use this as an example of if I was pulling my own details as a potential lead, how I would integrate it into Nimble, and then how I do much the same thing. So first of all, with Nimble, yes, you can copy and paste all of the information directly in, a bit like with an Excel sheet, but it also has this very cool plugin called Nimble Prospector, which does a little bit of the information for you. So basically what it does is if I highlight the name, then it will, it did that automatically, in fact. It will actually start to build a profile when it finds a name. So I do this, and I start to edit it, and then I can say, okay, so this guy, he works for, I know him, so he works for Naturally RP Voiceover. I'm going to say he's the creative director. So you can fill out all of these details. Very, very exciting. And of course, you could copy and paste these details in, as you would with the Excel sheet. Now, I, store whatever information is most useful to you, but that's the majority of the things. And then the crucial other things that I do with Nimble is that I select the lead type. So here we've got a variety of things depending on genre, but mainly it's, are they a lead, are they a prospect, or are they a client? So are they somebody that you've contacted? Are they somebody that's said that they're interested in working with you and they like your work, or they'll keep you on file, or are they someone that you have actually worked with or are working with? So this guy's a lead in this instance. So I save his details. But what I also do, crucially, is that I add a tag. So let's say, for example, I'm going to create a new tag for this guy. And again, we're in the hypothetical 2022. So let's say it's VP London, week 7, 2022. So I'm going to copy that for future reference as well. So let's say create that, yes. So we've created that tag as well and saved. Fantastic. So that's great. Now, the reason that that's really useful is that you could go through an entire week creating a whole list of contacts which have that same combination of the tag, their video production in London in week 7, 2022, and their lead type is lead. Now, the reason that you want to do that is because every week I create what I call, what Nimble calls a segment. So you add segment here, and basically what a segment is, it's a group which has certain qualifiers. So basically, in order for a contact to fall into this new segment that I'm creating, I need to create a couple of filters, and anything that corresponds to those kind of filters ends up in here. So if we add one contact filter, let's say that the tag, let's say that the lead type, I select that the lead type is lead, and then I update. Okay, so this is going to do a great big search of all of my database, and it's going to go like, hey, well, you've got 2,183 leads. I've actually got quite a few more than that, but I'm using a limited version of my database. Okay, so if it is a lead type, and, so you could switch and or, but for my purposes, I always go and, is the tag, and then and it's the tag that I just used as well, VP London week 7 2022, and I update it, and I come up Christopher Tester, the creative director at Naturally RP. And why do I come up? It's because my lead type is lead, and I also have that tag. So if I change my lead type, if Christopher Tester gets in contact with me, not to get too meta, and says, yes, I want to work with you at some point in the future, so he turns into a prospect, then me going in and changing him into a prospect will mean that he'll fall out of this segment and into my prospects segment, which is over here. Similarly, if Christopher contacts me and he books me for a job instead, I turn his lead type into client, and he will fall into the client segment. And with the client segment and the prospect segment, the only qualifier is their lead type. Their lead type is client, or their lead type is prospect. It doesn't matter what their tag is at all. So anyway, so I go here, I call my segment what it was anyway, because they're all the same context that I've researched. Video production London, week 7 of 2022, and I save this search. And then if I went through all of my different segments, you see it's that one there, which has Christopher Tester here. So if I then, this guy books me, so he's turned from a lead into a client. Then if I then go back to my contacts, I go to clients. Here are some of my clients again. I've kind of separated them. Then he will hopefully be somewhere. Let's see, does he add it at the bottom? Yes, and he's added at the bottom of my clients list there. But there, and the group that I had been working with, I would no longer be in that original segment. But then if I switch him back to a lead, then he would rejoin that segment again. Now, the reason that these segments are really useful are essentially because of the follow-up emails. Because when we were dealing with Excel sheets, we could know when we were supposed to contact these people and follow up with them. But the crucial difference is that whereas with your first contact, your emails, it's a very personalized email that you write, specifically talking about a particular element of someone's work. With all of the follow-ups, because you're not responding to anything new to a lead, they're a bit more generic. So you can get away essentially with not exactly a group email, but again, you're not responding to anything new, so you'll be sharing a bit of content or maybe an article or a blog or some information that they may find useful, but yeah, you're not responding to anything more in a kind of personalized way. So traditionally, with the Excel version of that, you would maybe copy and paste an email, and then you'd literally kind of copy Paul or copy Lisa's name in and kind of like send it that kind of way every time you did it, which does take a lot of time and there's the risk of mistakes. Or alternatively, with CRM, and this is when, as you scale up, this can be very advantageous, you can use something like group messages, and they'll all have something like group messages. So if you go to a new group message, and again, with something like a group message here, you can select templates, and this is a way of speeding up the whole process very, very quickly. So let's first of all, what you first do is that you can, let's say you select, if you select VP, just got to remember what was the VP London. Okay. Problem of doing these things live is you've got to then find out where these are. Yes, so VP London week 7. So if I had like 20 or 30 or 50 contacts all in VP London week 7, I could select them all. But you can just select them all by like that as well. And then you can send a group message, which takes you to here. And then what I've got is I've got a template of loads of different kind of follow-ups, depending on what I've written, what kind of content that I've created, things that I've found useful for particular people. So for example, we've got this message called Ensuring an Authentic Emotional Voiceover, which some people might find useful. So I've got this, and you'll see here it says, hi, first name. I reached out to you about my voiceover services last month, blah, 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 blah. So anyway, what I first do is I make sure that there are no errors with this. So sometimes it'll occasionally duplicate my my footer, so I delete that. And what I always do is I always select everything, and I'll change the font, and I'll make the font big and then go back to normal, just to ensure that everything is exactly the same size as it should be. There's not anything creeping up with different weird kind of fonts, which sometimes happens. That's the simplest way to ensure that that doesn't happen. And then basically what messaging out with a CRM allows you to do is it will automatically replace everyone that you mail out. It'll replace this first name thing with their name. So Christopher in this case will get a, hi Christopher, I reached out to you about my voiceover services last month, blah 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 blah, the actual pertinent information. And that's what is going to essentially save you a lot of time. I still, in terms of my calendar, I will still use Google Calendar. Other calendars are available to log when I'm going to send all of these different group messages. I prefer to do that because I prefer to be in control of when I press send, whereas there are some CRMs like 17 Hats, I know, for example, which can automate for you everything. You know, like once you've sent your initial email, you can set up your second, third, fourth, fifth, however many follow-ups that you want. I'm just anxious of it's then down to me to turn people into a lead, into a prospect, or a lead into a client, or a lead into someone who doesn't want to hear from me again. And the risk with that is that I might accidentally forget and then send out a bunch of emails. So I don't do it that way. But then you can send to a list, like so. Message being sent to your email provider. I say thanks very much. And then what it'll also be able to do, and I take all of these details with a pinch of salt, is that it'll be able to show you how many of them have been successfully sent, how many emails have been opened, how many links have been clicked, if you have inserted any links into your email, how many are unread, how many have bounced back, all of this kind of thing. I mean, I could go more into emails and what you should include in, but that's a separate thing. And that's how I use it. So it's kind of, the difference with that is that rather than having to copy and paste every single time for all of the follow-ups, you can automate the follow-ups much more succinctly using this. So that basically is how I use Nimble now and how I used to use Excel as well. But if you have any questions about my process or anything else to do with it, please do let me know.
Okay, so that's a bit of a long video, but hopefully you stuck with it and found something of use. There are also chapters below so that you can revisit certain sections if anything you didn't understand. Please let me know in the comments below if there was anything you found interesting, anything you had questions about in terms of my workflow, generally speaking. And yeah, I hope it was of use. Thanks so much, as ever, for checking out the channel. Please do spread the word. Please do like and subscribe if possible. It means a lot. And I look forward to seeing you next time.